Okay, in my previous video, I demonstrated how to create vectors with character or factor data. In this one, I'm going to extend that a bit by just demonstrating how to create bar charts for these types of variables. So what we're going to basically pivot off of is this demonstration right here. This is basically a variable Paul Party that I've created with these values right here and given labels of Republican, Democrat, and Independent. So I'm going to really quickly just recreate that so you can see where that's coming from. So I'm just going to type in Paul Party and then an arrow. We're using the factor function followed by the C function, and we're just going to type in 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. We're going to use the levels argument again, which is levels equals C, and then in close we have the actual values that we just typed in, comma, and then labels equal, and then we're going to use the C function, and then we're going to type in the labels that are associated with 1, 2, and 3 respectively. So we're going to type in rep, dem, and independent, or INDEP, and then end with 2 in parentheses. So now again we've got Paul Party reflected right here again. If we look at the structure for this data object, you can see it's R is recognizing this as a factor with 3 levels. So let's say that we want to create a bar chart for the Paul Party variable. So a way that we can do this, we can start off, what we're going to need to do is create a new data object, and I'm just going to call this counts, and then have my arrow pointing to it, and I'm going to use the table function. So we're going to say table Paul Party and then hit enter, and then we're going to type in bar plot and then counts right here. So we're using the bar plots option and then count. So we're getting the actual frequency counts using the table function, and we're generating a new data object that's called counts, and then we're going to use the bar plot option so that's the bar plot function with our new data object, which is called counts. So I'm going to hit enter, and so now you can see our bar plot, our bar chart, and you can see along the x-axis we have the Republican, Democrat, and Independent. Along the y-axis we have the frequency counts. We can also kind of build on this a little bit if we want to make it, incorporate a title. We can certainly do that. I'm just going to use bar plot and then counts again, and then comma, and then use the main argument. So we're going to type in main equals, and then in quotation marks we'll type in frequencies associated with categories. It's very generic description, but I just wanted to demonstrate how we can obtain a title. So now when I hit enter, you can see that now we have our bar chart with our title included. If we want to obtain relative frequencies, basically the proportion of observations that are falling within at each level instead of looking at frequencies, we can also do that doing the following. So first, we'll pivot off of the counts as we did before, but I'll just kind of recreate it. I'll just say counts, and then so we're creating that data object table function, and then we'll type in Paul Party again. So I've just basically just kind of recreated what we just did here, but I'm giving you sort of the sequence. Then we're going to create a new data object that is going to contain the relative frequency. So I'm just going to call this new data object RF, and then have my arrow pointing at it. And then we're going to take counts. So we've just created our counts data object. So I'm going to take counts and then divide by, and then we're going to say use the sum function, and then counts again. So make sure that so you can see that we're taking the counts for each category and dividing it by the sum of the counts. So that's going to get us relative frequencies. So now when I hit enter, we now have an RF object that's been created. If I just type in RF, you can see what the proportions are for each category. So 0.4, 0.4, and 0.2. Now when I type in bar plot, I'll use the RF data object, comma, and let's just say I want to type in, create a title. So I'm going to call it main, call it relative frequencies. So I have to put that in quotation marks, in parenthesis, and hit enter. And so now when we look at our chart, instead of having frequencies reflected along the y-axis, now we have the proportions associated with each category.